It starts like this. You feel different, but not in the way the world romanticizes. Not in the special snowflake way. Not in the I'm here to spread light way. No. You feel like your soul has always been standing at the edge of something ancient, something dangerous, and something deeply misunderstood. You've always known that there was more darkness, more layers, more secrets buried beneath the surface of what people call spirituality. While others chant mantras and chase love and light, you've been drawn to the silence behind the veil. You've stared into the abyss, and instead of fleeing, you listened to it. That's not weakness. That's not rebellion. That's the signature of a dark, chosen one, someone marked by energy so powerful, so unshakable, that even demons step back when they approach. Now, let's get something straight. We're not talking about Hollywood demons with horns and fire. We're talking about forces, energetic parasites, entities, interdimensional frequencies that feed on fear, confusion, shame, and fragmentation. They don't show up with smoke and red eyes. They show up as whispers in your mind, toxic cycles in your relationships, unexplained fatigue, self-destructive patterns, or a magnetic pull toward things you know harm you. They are real, and they feed on the unawakened. But here's the truth that few dare say out loud. They avoid dark chosen ones. Why? Because we carry something that terrifies them, not because we are immune, but because we are forged differently. The first reason demons won't dare touch a true dark chosen one is because we've already walked through hell by choice. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain, avoiding truth, avoiding that raw confrontation with their own shadow. But we don't. We go there. We've been through trauma that would shatter others. We've sat in the pitch-black silence of our own psyche and met the monsters that live inside. We've screamed. We've broken. We've bled spiritually, but we didn't run. We stayed, and in that staying we did something demons hate. We took back our power. They thrive on avoidance, on denial. But when you face your pain with open eyes and an open heart, you become unappetizing to them. You become sovereign. You become someone who cannot be manipulated through fear, because you've already made fear your teacher. Ask yourself, have I truly faced what I'm running from? Have I sat with my wounds long enough for them to speak their truth? If so, you've already begun the forging process. The second reason is this. Dark chosen ones carry an energetic signature that is coded for disruption. Demons are not just chaos. They are order masquerading as chaos. They are part of a parasitic system that depends on predictability, on people following the same fears, the same addictions, the same subconscious loops. But when a dark chosen one enters a space, we interfere with that programming. Our aura doesn't just glow, it disrupts. We confuse them. We scramble their scripts. We invoke ancestral memory in the people around us. That's why we trigger people without trying. That's why people either love us or fear us. It's not personal, it's energetic. We represent the end of old cycles. And demons' energetic parasites thrive on those cycles. Your mere presence is a virus in their system. That's terrifying to them. Third, we are not bound by conventional morality, and that makes us unpredictable. Most spiritual people are easily manipulated because they're overly attached to being good. They want to be seen as kind, peaceful, forgiving. But demons exploit that. They twist it. They use guilt as a leash. But the dark chosen one isn't playing by those rules. We've integrated our shadow. We've accepted our capacity for rage, destruction, seduction, silence, and power. We don't need to pretend. We don't need to be liked. And that's a nightmare for any dark force trying to control us, because they can't use shame. They can't use fear of judgment. They can't use false light. We are not afraid of being misunderstood. We are not afraid of being alone. That kind of spiritual independence makes us untouchable. The fourth terrifying reason is that we don't resist darkness, we master it. You see, demons don't actually fear light. They fear integration. They don't care if you claim to be love and light, as long as you stay fragmented. But when you take your darkness into your arms, when you stop resisting your anger, your lust, your grief, your power and begin to wield it consciously, you become something they cannot feed on. You become whole, and wholeness vibrates at a frequency that dissolves parasitic entities, because they can only survive in fragmentation. They can only attach to what you reject. So if you reject nothing, if you own all of you, they have nowhere to land. That's why demons don't touch the truly integrated. There's no hook, no crack, no shame. Just raw, unapologetic embodiment. Fifth, and this is one of the most chilling truths, they know we can see them. Not with physical eyes, but with inner sight. You walk into a room and you feel the distortion. You sense the unspoken. You know when something is off. You can smell energetic manipulation the way a wolf smells blood. And you don't just see demons, you name them. You call them out. You dismantle their illusions. That's what makes you dangerous. Because most people don't even know they're being fed on. But you do, and demons hate being seen. They operate best in secrecy, in confusion. When you look them in the eye metaphysically or otherwise, you collapse their veil. You remind them that you remember. And memory is power. Sixth, we carry ancestral contracts that protect us. This one is deeper than most realize. If you are a dark chosen one, it's because your bloodline made a pact consciously or unconsciously to birth someone who would end the generational curse. That someone is you. You've inherited not just trauma but authority. You're not just healing yourself, you're clearing timelines. You're standing on the shoulders of ancestors who were silenced, enslaved, burned, banished. And with every shadow you integrate, you unlock more of their power. Demons know this. They've been feeding on your lineage for centuries. But now, you're the firewall. You're the breaker. That makes you a threat to their ancient claims. They don't just fear you. They fear what you represent. The seventh reason is the most terrifying of all. We are not afraid to become what they fear. We are not afraid to be silent when others scream. Not afraid to walk alone through spiritual realms. Not afraid to embody archetypes that others run from. We hold the warrior, the witch, the destroyer, the guide all in one. And when necessary, we step into those roles without hesitation. That makes us not just hard to touch but impossible to defeat. Because we are not playing the game at all. We are the reset. Now I'll ask you, deep in your bones, do you know this is who you are? Have you always felt like you were being watched not by enemies, but by something waiting for you to remember? Because if so, this message isn't just for you. It's about you.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Most people don't realize they're in a war. Not a war of bombs and bullets, but a war of frequencies. A war of consciousness. A battle fought in silence, in dreams, in emotions, and in thought patterns. And the scariest part? The enemy doesn't want to destroy you. Not in the way you think. They want to use you, to drain your energy slowly while you smile, love, work, scroll, and sleep. This is the hidden war. And dark chosen ones, those of us who were marked from birth, are the glitches in their system. We carry the one thing that breaks their structure. Remembered power, not imagined. Not borrowed. Remembered, RC, lived. And they know it. Demons don't come at you with obvious attacks, especially not when they know you're awakening. They don't knock on your door and announce themselves. No, they infiltrate slowly. They study you. They learn your patterns. They whisper through people, through media, through spiritual teachings that subtly cause you to doubt yourself. They plant seeds of confusion, self-hatred, comparison, and guilt. Not to destroy you instantly, but to weaken your field. Because the weaker your field, the easier it is to attach. And once they're attached, they feed not just on your energy, but on your potential. That's what they fear most. Not who you are now, but who you're becoming. But here's what they can't calculate, what always throws off their strategy. Your energy doesn't obey their rules. It doesn't bend to shame. It doesn't collapse under fear. It transmutes. A dark chosen one doesn't just survive the attack, they grow stronger from it. Every attempt to manipulate you teaches you something. Every betrayal sharpens your discernment. Every spiritual ambush becomes alchemical fuel. That's why they can't win, because you don't break like others do. You transform. You dissolve illusions. You awaken deeper codes. And no algorithm of fear can account for that level of spiritual adaptation. Think about this. How many times have you been in situations that should have destroyed you? How many people tried to control you, only to end up exposed by your silence? How many times did you feel a force pressing on you at night, only to rise the next day more clear, more focused, more powerful? That's not coincidence. That's your system rejecting infiltration. Your aura repels what doesn't belong, not because you're positive, but because you're real, because you've earned your shadow, and that makes you unprogrammable. Their system thrives on predictability. They rely on humans staying reactive, emotional, guilt-ridden, and addicted to validation. But you question everything. You don't just feel energy, you read it. You sense when someone's words don't match their frequency. You feel when a room shifts. You know when something's watching you, even if no one else does. That intuitive awareness acts like a firewall. It blocks subtle attacks before they even reach your conscious mind. And when they do slip through, you don't spiral, you investigate. You observe. You ask, whose thought is this? Whose emotion am I carrying? What's trying to feed on my doubt? That level of inner inquiry breaks the entire parasitic structure apart. And it gets even deeper. Dark chosen ones often carry encoded memories from past lives, from soul missions, from timelines where we've battled these forces before. That's why we're not just sensitive, we're strategic. We've learned how they move, how they seduce, how they mimic light to bypass your defenses. And because we've seen it before, we're harder to fool. That memory lives in our bones, in our instincts. It whispers to us in moments of silence. Don't trust the surface. Feel the truth underneath. This is why they fear your awakening. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying to cast them out, but because you're becoming immune. You're remembering your sovereignty. You're no longer looking for protection, you're embodying it. And that's terrifying to forces that depend on you staying small. So here's the deepest question I can ask you right now. What if every shadow you've faced was not a punishment but a preparation for war? What if you've been trained in silence to carry a frequency that the world forgot, and every attack on your light was actually proof of your power? If that's true and you feel it is, then your next move isn't to fight harder. It's to remember deeper. Because once you remember who you are, what you carry, and why they fear you, the war ends. Not because the enemy is gone, but because you no longer feed it. There's a kind of protection that doesn't look like protection. It's not loud. It's not wrapped in rituals or cloaked in white robes. It doesn't require salt circles, mantras, or talismans, though those can be helpful. No, this kind of protection is invisible, unshakable, and terrifying to anything that feeds on fear. It is spiritual immunity. And dark chosen ones don't wear this armor, they become it. They don't just cast out darkness, they radiate a frequency so integrated, so whole, that darkness cannot find a foothold. It doesn't mean we're invincible. It means we're unconsumable. Spiritual immunity is not a gift, it's a result. A result of choices we've made in silence, in suffering, in solitude. It's forged in the moments when we could have collapsed into victimhood but didn't. When we could have begged to be rescued but chose to remember. Immunity starts building the moment we stop outsourcing our power. When we stop looking for someone to save us, clear us, fix us. When we stop asking, how do I protect myself? And start asking, what part of me still believes I can be touched by this? That shift from defense to sovereignty is the foundation of the unseen armor. Let's get real. Most people walk around spiritually exposed. Not because they're weak, but because they're fragmented. They've been taught to fear their own shadow. to reject parts of themselves, to label emotions as low vibration. But here's the secret. Demons don't feed on darkness. They feed on disowned darkness, on the guilt that festers when you pretend to be pure, on the fear that arises when you deny your rage, your lust, your grief, your chaos. That's the entry point. That's the crack in the field. And dark, chosen ones, we seal those cracks not by pretending to be light, but by integrating every part of ourselves that others have been taught to fear. You want immunity? Then stop judging your darkness. Stop apologizing for your power. Stop separating spiritual from primal. Because the moment you reclaim all of you, you become whole. And wholeness is terrifying to parasitic forces. Why? Because it's complete. Because it vibrates with a frequency that mirrors truth, and truth dismantles illusions. Truth burns through deception. Truth exposes manipulation. That's why your presence alone can cause people to tremble, cry, or lash out. Not because you're doing anything but because you become a mirror they can't escape. And here's the real paradox. The more you accept your darkness, the more light you naturally radiate. Not the kind of light that blinds or bypasses. The kind of light that sees everything and still chooses to stay. That kind of light creates immunity. Because it doesn't flinch, it doesn't beg, it doesn't run. It simply is. And when something tries to penetrate that kind of field, it gets reflected back. Not with force. With clarity. That's the unseen armor. Not resistance. Not defense. But embodiment. We build this armor in our daily choices. In what we allow ourselves to feel. In how we speak to ourselves when no one's listening. In how we hold space for our own chaos instead of running to escape it. Every time you sit with your shadow instead of numbing it, you strengthen your field. Every time you speak your truth instead of people-pleasing, your aura expands. Every time you choose integrity over image, you become less programmable. That's how immunity builds, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. And yes, there will still be moments when you feel the pressure. When something tries to hook into your doubt, when waves of fear or confusion wash over you. But if you've done the work, if you've built your unseen armor, not only will those waves pass, but you'll stand taller because of them. The attack becomes the activation. The darkness becomes the doorway. And over time you stop asking, how do I protect myself? You start asking, what part of me is ready to evolve? So I ask you this with complete sincerity. What would happen if you stopped trying to protect yourself and became someone who no longer needs protection? What would you become if you trusted your field more than your fear? You'd become the storm, the silence, the shadow, the light, the armor itself. There's one last truth that most won't tell you, and it's the one demons hope you never remember. It's not just your presence that unsettles them. It's not even your power, your aura, or your ability to see through illusion. The real threat, the final blow, is your destiny, your purpose, the role you're here to play in the collapsing of old systems and the birth of something ungovernable. You see, demons don't just fear who you are, they fear what you're becoming. Because your destiny, once activated, doesn't just protect you, it shifts the collective fabric of reality. And that's the kind of ripple effect they cannot contain. Dark, chosen ones are not random. We didn't land in this life by accident. We were placed strategically, like keys in a lock, waiting for the moment the frequency of our soul would align with the exact kind of chaos the world is now drowning in. That moment is now. And if you've made it this far through the pain, the isolation, the confrontations with your shadow, it means you're no longer just surviving. You're awakening. And with that awakening comes the ignition of something far more terrifying to dark forces than any exorcism or ritual. Your mission. When you step into your destiny, your energy doesn't just protect, it activates. It awakens others. It breaks generational curses. It collapses illusions in families, in communities, in systems. Suddenly, people around you start to question their programming. They start to feel things they buried for years. They start to remember what they came here for. Not because you told them, but because your field reminded them. That's the real war. Not between good and evil, but between memory and forgetting, between soul and system. And when a dark chosen one remembers, the system starts to crack. This is why you were tested so brutally. This is why you were targeted from such a young age. Because they saw your blueprint. They saw what you would become if you ever made it to this point. And they tried everything: abuse, addiction, shame, betrayal, self-doubt too, stop you from getting here. But you did. You're still here. You're still rising. And that defiance, that soul-level refusal to stay asleep, is what makes you unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, not because you're fearless, but because you're chosen not by an external God, but by your soul. And you accepted that call even when it cost you everything. So let's be clear, your destiny isn't to fight demons. It's to render them irrelevant, to become such a living embodiment of truth, wholeness, and power that they simply have no place to land. It's to walk through this world like a living glitch in the matrix, unbothered, unbound, untamed. It's to speak in ways that cut through centuries of silence, to love in ways that break ancestral trauma, to exist in such alignment that your life becomes a portal for others to remember themselves. And yes, it will still require courage. The path doesn't get easier, but you get clearer, stronger, more precise. You begin to walk with the knowing that nothing can truly touch you because you are no longer operating within the same energetic rules. You've become the rule breaker, the timeline shifter, the anchor of a new frequency. So here is the final question I leave you with, the one that burns through all illusions, all fear, all doubt. If you knew that your destiny was the very thing darkness fears most, would you still hide from it? Or would you finally step into it, fully and without apology? You already know the answer. The question was never if you're chosen. It was always, will you remember in time? And now you have.